What I'd like to talk about today are broken into 3 different topics. I'd like to give you a quick overview of the Virtual High School Global Consortium model. Then I'd like to talk to you a little bit about how VHS online courses have been integrating e-texts into our online courses and some of the evaluation criteria we've used in that integration. And then lastly, what I'd like to do is talk to you about the newest model that we've been involving in our online course design, and that is very much of a student-centric as well as student authoring approach to the online course design, and that is using the Web 2.0 tools, and that's probably where I'm going to spend most of my time. So Virtual High School has been in existence since 1996. For the first 5 years, we were funded under U.S. Department of Education Technology Innovation Challenge Grant, and then we went to a self-sustaining nonprofit organization in 2001, and we've been operating as a nonprofit since that time. We're presently working with over 700 schools, both at the middle school and at the high school level, and they are in about 32 states and about 45 countries. Our course design has been focused on the philosophy that these millennial students are looking for an educational experience that is going to be personalized to them, that is going to provide them with feedback 24/7, as they are so much accustomed to living. We're looking for opportunities for collaboration among our students, as well as project-based and real-world applications in the application of the knowledge and the content that the students are getting. We do not work on students working on their own pace through an entire course, but we do allow through our asynchronous course delivery, because students are working across time zones with one another, for them to work at their own pace within the week. And so that gives them a little bit of time management and independent learning skills. And then we're focusing on innovation for the students. So our model is focused on trying to give students 21st century literacy skills along with and building upon what I call the 3 C's of online education. They are learning content and curriculum as their baseline application, but then they are also developing information and communication technology skills. And they are focused on the communication and collaboration among the students, and this is where the student authoring piece is going to come in. And because we're working with students from all over the world, much as you heard this morning at this morning's keynote, we also are developing global citizenship skills in our students because they are working with one another, and they are having opportunities not only to learn the content, but through that communication and collaboration to learn cultural awareness skills and geographic diversity, all of those types of things. So this is what we're working with, is that Generation C, and I talked to you about the collaboration, the creation, and then the critical thinking skill. You're going to see some more examples of that going forward. So our instructional design model is based on an interactive experience where it is cohort-based. It is not students individually self-pacing through the content. And that's how we are able, through this cohort model of students working with one another, to build the communication and the collaboration. These are actually global online classrooms. So all of the great things that you can use and have in a classroom experience for your students, debates, discussions, project-based activities, teamwork, are all possible in the online course design model that VHS is using. So when you look at what the internet has enabled all of us as educators to think in terms of a transition from formal learning spaces to informal learning spaces, from competitive learning to collaborative learning, most of what VHS is doing is on the right-hand side of that. We're really focused on personalizing the learning, the collaborative learning opportunities, personal author and innovator, and building the knowledge and understanding among all of our students. So that's a quick rundown on VHS. What I'd like to talk to you about next is how we have been incorporating some of the digital resources, starting with the e-texts that we have been incorporating into some of our courses, and then I'm going to talk to you about more of the open educational resources that have gone into the courses. So when we first started incorporating e-text, it was out of need. We're delivering online courses to students all over the world. If we're writing an AP Calculus course that requires an AP Calculus textbook, we would not presume that the students would be able to purchase that textbook on their own, because course materials are generally provided to students. And so that put VHS into the position of having to ship textbooks all over the world. And the textbooks are not so much of a problem, but the materials for an electricity course, which looks similar to bombs, do cause a problem. And so we were getting course materials that were not getting shipped to our students, or when we're shipping materials to China. It was taking way too long for those materials to get there, and 3 weeks of the course had already gone by. So the evaluation criteria that we were looking for when we were thinking about bringing some e-texts into some of these courses were that they had to be nonlinear, they had to allow for exploration. Many of the things that we talked about this morning, they had to have a self-help feature. They had to enable student authoring as well as teacher authoring. So here's an example of one that we happen to be using in our Advanced Placement Calculus AB course. Now, any of you that are familiar with teaching advanced placement courses know that you're teaching to the test a lot of the time. And so there is a curriculum that you need to follow that is provided by the College Board. And so as much as we would like to develop fully online courses that require no textbooks at all, there are times when we have to get involved in these because of the particular content that we're working with. So in this one, we're using Bedford Freeman Worth, AP Calculus e-text. And so you can see here on this chapter on differentiation, and I will tell you right now, I was an economics major, so this was a bit of a thrill for me to start looking at calculus, because it's been a long, long time for me since I've thought about calculus. So when the students were working on differentiation, the first piece is that there is the chapter introduction, and you can see that in the second paragraph of this, derivative is highlighted in blue, tangent line is another one. Those are areas where students can drill down deeper and find definitions. There is an area for student authoring. Up at the top it says notes and highlighting. Students can do that type of thing. So if a student were to drill down and say, you know, I've forgotten what the definition of a derivative is, this would pop up as a helper. When students are working on problems, you can see on the right-hand side it says sticky note 1, and it actually has the teacher's name. The teacher is writing herself some notes about this, reminding herself that this concept that the students are learning about differentiation relates back to another concept on limits that was discussed previously in a previous chapter. And the other nice thing about this is that students, when they're looking at these various equations, can click on any one of these diagrams and get additional help and get multiple diagrams opening up in various windows to ease their navigation across understanding of these different charts and graphs. So here's an example of where a student wants some additional work in that particular graph, and when they drill down into it, it opens up in a different window, but it also gives them two options. You have an option for example plus, which will give you other examples and take you through the work. And then you get an applet, which is an interactive explanation of that particular graph. I'm not running the applet because I'm not running this live for you, but you can see the variety of helps that are in this. So it is not a linear concept of just here's your chapter, here's your chapter, here's your chapter, but it allows for a great deal of exploration for the students. And that's an example of the example plus one where it just takes them through step by step. And here's this is a feature that enables the students to just move the various variables up and down and see what it does to the graph. So for student-created content, VHS is really focusing on this because of two quotes that I think really, really support this concept of personalized learning for students, student-centered learning, as well as students taking ownership of the learning process, because that is what's going to enable them to become better lifelong learners. We've come to believe that kids are learning in significantly different ways because of digital media, because of the ways they can participate, participatory learning. They can produce, the ways that they can share information, and the ways that they can create new information. And teachers are struggling with this generation of students who are typically bored when you give them paper-based learning activities. And we also know that this global business environment that our students are working their way toward requires the kinds of 21st century digital literacies that are so critical in that lifelong learning experience that we can provide for kids. So those ICT skills that I talked to you about earlier are an important part of what global corporations are looking for from their graduates. The challenge for teachers is how they can provide those 21st century literacy developments in a learning environment that is focused on the core curriculum. And I think that's what I can show you some examples of that can really help. The other thing to consider is virtual high school works in an entirely online environment. Our courses are fully online. They're delivered to students who are in, maybe, you know, it's a classroom of 25 students that are studying AP Calculus. Those students could be in 25 different countries. And that teacher could be in a 26th country. So it is a fully online environment. However, what we are talking about today, the practices that we are talking about around e-texts and around Web 2.0 tools and open educational resources, frankly, I find are much more exciting when you talk about them in blended classrooms. In K-12 classrooms for all teachers and all students who want to use those Web 2.0 tools, those digital resources, those open educational resources, to extend learning opportunities for students, to personalize learning opportunities for students, and to expand and enhance and transform the learning experience for all of our students in a blended teaching and learning model, not one that is just fully online. And to me, blended teaching and learning is the real killer app that we need to start to address. Not only through just the VHS model of teaching across countries, but the way that we can take that opportunity and tie it into the teaching and learning experience of the students through the instructional design of the online courses to foster that in an even deeper way, I think is really important. So here's an example. This is an engineering course. It's called Engineering for Sustainable Future. And in this particular course, there's a classmate's blog. There's a wiki that talks about entropy. There's a power system wiki. There's a glossary that the students are creating. So they're creating their own learning documents through their sustainability glossary wiki. They're also creating a sustain utopia. And each student is actually building a model of a sustainable world in this online course. So for us, we've been focusing on probably about, for the most part, about 5 Web 2.0 tools. Wikis, blogs, social bookmarking, RSS feeds, and one more. Podcasts is the other one. So, and it's what I love about it is a really tight integration. Podcasts. And so what I'm going to show you now is take you through step by step just 3 of those tools, but to show you how you can build each tool and integrate it into the other as an inherent part and a central part of the learning process for the students. And it's central to the learning. It's not peripheral. It's not an add-on. Oh, let's go create this blog, but we don't really understand how it's going to work in the learning process. So start off with social bookmarking. This is an economics course. And in this course, students are asked to find current news articles related to the economic topic of the week. And so they're going to use the social bookmarking tool, Digo. Now, we have set this up. These courses happen to be run in Desire to Learn, but we had to previously run them on Blackboard, not a problem. We set up the newsstand so that students can have information and resources pushed to them. But also, later on, as they create their blogs are also going to get pushed within this newsstand. The newsstand is our educator jargon for RSS feed. So this newsstand is actually NetVibes. So you can see here, it's an economics course. Of course, we're going to use the Wall Street Journal. So this is an International Baccalaureate course. And so the students are going to be asked to follow those links in the newsstand, the Wall Street Journal, the Financial Times, any of the other places that the teacher put up, and then the students are going to be contributing to. And then they're going to be asked to select an article and follow the newsstand using the social bookmarking sites for this one. And in this one, they were talking about price elasticity. And so 133 resources have been added to this particular site by students, and each one has now been tagged by the student. So this is your Digo piece. In this instance, the term is elasticity. 13 resources have been added covering elasticity in a variety of markets. You've got bluefin tuna, you've got groceries, you've got gasoline prices, you've got housing prices. So students are bringing in a variety of real-world examples that demonstrate price elasticity. This kind of active learning requires higher order thinking skills such as analysis, synthesis, evaluation, and it provides a means for the learners to assimilate, apply, and retain their learning in this kind of activity of finding the resources through the initial newsstand feed, going out there, bookmarking them in Digo. Now what's going to happen next, and this is another OER, EduBlogs, is that the students are now going to be handed an assignment, and on this one we're talking about natural monopoly. They found their news articles. Now they're going to be asked to blog about one of those articles, as well as do peer reviews visiting the blogs of other students. So here's the activity detail on this one. And you can see here that this student developed a blog on the topic of South Africa's ruling party and posted it up, and then that comes through the newsstand, through the RSS feed for other students to go in there and look and see, oh, a new blog has been posted, so it automatically feeds to them. And then those students that are looking to comment on one another's blogs and collaborate with one another know which new blogs have been added in. And so on this one, we've got 4 responses to this particular blog, and 2 of them were opposed to what the student had originally posted. And they commented on it. And in the comments to the original blog, students brought in, those opposing students, brought in additional information about monopoly, competition, price, and elasticity as part of their post, building upon the learning of, for all the students, of this particular blog, and then sort of rebuttal to the blog. So So what we have found is that blogs encourage the students to take ownership of their learning and to publish authentic artifacts containing their thoughts and understanding. The artifact is critiquable by peers as well as by their teacher. It enables the viewing of a student's academic progress as a series of postings, which offers a unique perspective on the interconnectedness of the coursework across an entire program of study. So when we talk about e-portfolios, this is a tool that would be very helpful in providing that. Now, the other thing that this group of students did was, International Baccalaureate. It's an exam-driven course. Typically, students buy the IB Economics Study Guide. Students were given as an assignment over the term of the 2 years of this course to use a wiki to create their own study guide that all students had to contribute to on a weekly basis, and it was one team grade for that entire wiki. Again, creating the sense of collaboration. Someone could post into the wiki, others could correct what was posted. Others, they could all come into it building upon their strengths. If somebody understood price elasticity really well, they could contribute to that piece. Others could comment on it, others could add to it in the same way that they were doing with the blog, but then it became all of these are authoring opportunities, but that particular one was a very, very strong authoring opportunity, really taking ownership of the learning for the students. Thank you very much.